in our bowl, we're going to add 1 cup of gluten. We're going to add our nutritional yeast. I have about 2 tablespoons of nutritional yeast and 1 tablespoon of chickpea flour that I've milled myself. We're going to add to this mixture some chili. I have about, I'd say a 1/4 teaspoon of chili. I have about a 1/2 teaspoon of salt, and if you want it a little saltier, you could always add more salt. I have 1 teaspoon of sage. I have about a pinch or 2 of cloves, and I have about a 1/4 teaspoon of nutmeg, and I'm going to add that to my dry ingredients. And we want to mix this up and incorporate everything well. We want to make sure everything is even. Now we have the onions are in the pan and they're getting nice and golden. We want them to be sweet and we want them to be brown. Now the onions I'm going to put aside and I'm going to let them get cooled off. We're going to put those at the end. We're going to move our tray and we're going to start cutting our apples. We want to peel the apples, and I'm using a ceramic knife because it does help not get the apples oxidized. Now 1 apple, I'm going to puree it in my NutriBullet. We want it almost like an applesauce. And we're not going to add any sweetness yet. We're going to check our dough later on before we make our sausage. And for those that don't know, when you make this, we're making Seitan sausages. But when you make Seitan sausages, it is so high in protein. It is higher than a piece of steak. The benefits is it doesn't have any cholesterol like you would with a piece of meat that's loaded in fats and all things that are really not good for you. So we're going to take these apples and we're just going to quickly pass them my NutriBullet. I just want it to be like an applesauce. And these are going to make the sausages nice and moist and give it a nice sweet apple flavor to your sausage. My family goes nuts for these. I have my NutriBullet, and I'm going to add this 1 apple into my NutriBullet, and I'm just going to turn this apple into an applesauce. And I'm going to add just a drop of water in here. We don't need that much. There we go. And there's our applesauce. Now if your applesauce gets dark, it doesn't really matter because it's going to go into the sausage and you're not even going to see it. So I'm going to wait to put this at the end. I don't want to put this now. Otherwise my gluten will start forming, and I want to do that right at the end. Put that aside, and I'm just going to leave this here. And I'm going to start chopping up my other apple. Now this apple, you want to chop it up. You're going to peel it and you're going to chop it up in small bits. You don't want to have big bits, but you want to have it as small as you can have it, but you don't want it pureed. And this is going to give your sausage that beautiful sweet taste to it. Nice apple flavor. And you could actually buy these apple sage sausages, but they're so expensive. You really don't get much for your money. Not that I'm putting down the company who makes them, because they're fantastic. But if you're feeding a big family at almost $10 for 4 sausages, you really want to make your own at this point. Here we go. Now we're going to cut these in small pieces. And then we're just going to quickly chop them up a little with a bigger knife. You could also put it in a food processor and just give it a fast pulse. You just want them cut up in smaller pieces, tiny little bits. So I go across this way with the apple, and then I'll go back down and slice them thin, and then just give them a nice rough chop. And wait till you taste them. These are fantastic. Now, I myself eat mostly raw. You might say I'm about 95 to 97% raw. I do nibble when I cook for my family. I should use a bigger knife for this. So I do nibble, so that would make me not 100% raw. But I do eat mostly raw. Now, one person asked me, why is your Connie's Rawsome Kitchen and you're cooking foods that are not raw? Well, I like to be able to help people that are trying to transition into a vegan diet and they don't want to do raw eating. I eat mostly raw, but I do cook for my family. Now, we've been vegan a long time. We have been vegan myself over 8 years now. And it didn't take me much. After I saw all those documentaries on what they do to the animals, never in my wildest dream did I ever think that this was going on. And you know what? Most of us never really connected. We never really connected. But once you make that connection, it's hard to put anything in your mouth that has any animal product. Let it be an egg, let it be some milk, knowing what happens to these animals. That's why I'm so disappointed with the Odge twins. And if you're listening to me out there, and if somebody would just let them know, they've got children. If I'm not mistaken, they're dads. They have kids. How about making a difference for their kids' life, their future, for the planet? And I'll go back and start eating vegan, because it really will make a difference for your children's future and your health. Because you might look all healthy and strong now, but trust me, it's going to bite you in the ass, excuse my language. So here's my second apple, and I've made it into smaller bits, and this is going to go into my dry ingredients. So as you can tell, it really is not hard to make these sausages. You could also add cheese, and that'll help give it even a little extra moisture and deliciousness to your sausage. And I might do that. I might put some Daiya cheese that I have in my refrigerator. Okay, so here we go. We've got the dry ingredients. I am now just going to add my apples. And I'm going to mix those up so they don't just bundle up on me. I'm just going to mix them so they evenly get mixed together. And I do apologize if my camera shuts down on me. Not sure why it does that, but it always seems to do that. So I'm going to mix the apple pieces in. And now I'm going to push this aside again. And I'm going to take these onions that you know what, I'm not even going to chop them. This time I'm just going to throw them in. Here's the onions that I fried up, and I'm going to put them right into my batter. And I'm going to quickly toss these up and make sure they just distribute evenly into my bowl. You could also use your hands to separate them. And these are so good. Wait till you taste these, how good they are. So you just want to distribute them evenly. There we go. And now we're going to add our coconut oil, into our applesauce. Wish I had more room to move the stuff around for you. Okay, we need some coconut oil. Okay, sorry, believe it or not, my camera shut down on me again. Okay, so I did add 1 tablespoon of coconut oil right into my applesauce. You could even put a little more if you want, which, you know what, I'm going to do it because I like to keep these as moist as possible. So I'm going to put another half a tablespoon. So 1.5 tablespoons of coconut oil. That's right into my applesauce. Now I'm going to add my applesauce to my mixture in my bowl. And I'm going to quickly toss this around because that's going to add moisture to my seitan already. So when I add water, I'm not going to need a full cup of water. I'm going to need less. So I might just need a little bit of water, but I want to mix this up really good. And then I'm going to add some water, but I'm not going to add all the water. I'm just going to add a little bit because you want to play it by eye. So I'm just going to add about less than a 1/4 cup. Mix that up. You want to be able to pick up all the ingredients that you have, all the dry ingredients. And so I might just need half a cup of this. We'll see how it goes. Because don't forget, our apples were moist. Our onions also were moist. And now, before I continue mixing, I said I was going to put some Daiya cheese in here. So I'm just going to get some Daiya cheese and add that. Now, we don't want to put too much of the Daiya cheese, but I will put a nice handful. There we go. And now we're going to keep mixing this. You could use your hands, but here is my mixture. So I needed less than half half a cup of water because I did have that 1 cup of that one apple that I use as an applesauce. So there we go. And I'm gonna lay my dough right onto this cutting board. Now, since I still have pieces of cheese and apple, I'm just going to open this up a bit and I'm just going to slide it right into it. Put that aside and I'm going to close it. Now this is only a small batch of sausage, but you can double this recipe if you want. But I'm going to cut this in half. And then I'm going to cut it again. I'll cut the halves in 3, I guess. So that'll be 1, 2, 3. They might not all be the same. You can measure them if you really want to get picky. But I've got about 6 sausages that I'm going to make with this batch. Now I'm going to show you the trick that I have. And I learned the hard way. Before I put this in aluminum paper, I will take some cellophane, and I'm going to take some of this sausage meat and I'm just going to push it down And I'm just going to wrap it up, fold this over, and wrap again. And I'm going to do another one. Here we go. I'm going to take my meat, push it down. And now, notice how little fat this sausage really has. I mean, I did add the cheese, which you don't have to, but it really has very little fat. I put 1.5 tablespoons, which is going to go, it's going to be divided into 6 sausages. And I did have about a tablespoon that I did fry up my onions, but my onions, I cooked them in a rock frying pan, and you really don't need that much fat in the pan itself. So it really, they're not very, there's not a lot of fat on these sausages. So I'm just going to continue wrapping them in plastic. And these are really, really good. Like I said, my family really goes nuts for these. I know it looks like a mess when you're rolling them, but they will bind together, believe it or not. And if you, like, I like my sausages nice and thick, but if you want them thinner, more like a hot dog, you just have to make more cuts and you'll have more sausages. So 1 sausage per person is more than enough, unless you're a real big eater. There we go. Wrap it up. Unfortunately, they're not even because I didn't bother measuring them. But if you're really picky, I know if it was my sister, she'd make sure that they're all the same size, the same weight. She'd be measuring these little puppies like nobody's business. She'd make sure they're all equal. But I'm not as picky as she is. So I'm just going to do them my way. Okay. So we've got 6 sausages. And I found this was the easiest way to get these sausages to stay in its package. Otherwise, your aluminum paper can open up and then you've got a mess in your hands. Okay, so here we go. Wrap that up. Okay, so now we have, let me just clean up my place. Now that we have them all wrapped up in the cellophane, we can now wrap them in the aluminum paper. Again, I don't measure my paper, I don't do any of that, I just wrap up as much as I want. Okay, so here we go, we roll them. I'm going to twist one side. Okay, again, I have no idea where I left off, but I was telling you to wrap your sausages, that it really doesn't take long to make these sausages. You can make them in no time at all. So here we go. So like I said, to steam these, you would need some form of steamer. If you have a Chinese basket steamer, that's great. That's what I'm going to use. And if you don't have that, you can pick those up at any Asian grocery store. But it's really not hard to make these sausages. I made 6 with a cup of gluten, and these are going to be just delicious. They're going to be great in a bun, like a hot dog, or if you just want to fry them up in a pan after. Well, these are going to get cooked. So when you're throwing them in a pan, you basically want to brown them so they have that nice brown sausage look to it. You really don't have to cook them and say, oh, I got to cook the sausages. You basically want to brown these sausages because they're already cooked. Once you've steamed these, they're going to be cooked. Okay, so here we are, and I'm going to wait till they cool off. They're very soft still. You can feel that they're soft, but these will firm up a little, so I'm just going to keep them wrapped the way they are once they're cooled off, and I'll show you what they look like. So for now, I'm just going to keep them. I like to just firm them up a little while they're still hot. There you go. And I'll show you what they look like once they've been cooled off. So for now, I'm just going to leave them like this, and I'll show you a little later. Okay, so I unwrapped one. Here we go. I I wish you can smell these. But these are wonderful. They have a nice cheesy apple sage. They're just really delicious. And it's got a nice meaty bite to it. They're really, really good. So give them a try if you like them. If you like this recipe, give me a thumbs up. And I'll see you in the next one.